Welcome to New Orleans.
Thank you very much.
How's the tour been going so far?
We're in the early stages of it, but it's really nice to be playing again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2009 was a pretty busy year for you, even though you might have not played as many shows.
Yeah.
Because you released 2 albums, Kai and Addicted.
Yeah.
And this year you're going to release 2 more.
Yeah.
Very busy man.
Well, you know, I got a low tolerance level for boredom, I think. You know, it's like, and even the years it didn't have as much of an output, I mean, it's consistently busy, whether or not it's like, you know, doing things around the house or like, just life is busy, right? I don't really know many people in life right now that aren't busy, right? And in terms of like recording that much music, I've got the facility and the faculty in my house to do so. So, you know, and I got a little studio in Vancouver that I can use, so might as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to write an album from start to finish?
It depends on the record. You know, some of them like kind of gestate for a year or so, and then others of them just happen immediately. There's some records where I just kind of sit down at the computer and just start writing, and then a few months later I've got a finished record. And then there's other records that I've been working on the music for a long time, and then finally it just kind of crests into something that I enjoy, and then I complete it, right? But really, it's like the nature of who I am. It's just the best release for me out of anything is just to make music. So it always happens, right? So it's not really a conscious thing. So
what is the difference between the 4 albums in the series that you're doing right now?
The difference, like sonically or thematically, or
thematically, or just what is the difference to you between the albums?
Well, all 4 records were essentially written at a certain period of time that was in essence a chronicle of a period of my life that was rife with personal change, and I found that the process included me just being free with my writing as opposed to trying to pigeonhole myself into a genre. Like, okay, well, I write metal, so I'm going to write metal, right? I just was like, I like music. I like music in general, so I'm just going to write music. And some days there's really peaceful, kind of pretty things. Another day there's really like horrendous things. Another day there's really complicated things, really stupid things, really poppy things. And I just kept writing, right? And then by the end of it, I found that it kind of compartmentalized itself into 4 very distinct kind of moods. And in piecing it together, I found that, if I could put it together in a way that metaphorically kind of chronicled that period of my life, then each record could have its own identity that was very specific while being part of like a whole thing, right? And the Devin Townsend project is that whole thing, and each record is just a very distinct part of it. Like Addicted is a very kind of commercial-oriented, beat-driven, kind of, happy record, right? If not happy, then like optimistic. And Key was kind of tense and kind of driving with the brakes on. But that's why Addicted is what it was, because after Key, I was like, okay, well, let's just like blow this up for a while, right? And after Addicted, the next record's called Deconstruction, and it's like a very dark, very heavy, very complicated record, right? And the last record's essentially like a folk record or like a country record or something. So, and then after that, I'll do a bunch of other things. So, I mean, really, it's like I'm really happy to have the opportunity to be a musician. I'm really, honored to be able to come out and play for people and like have the opportunity to come to New Orleans and experience it. And so, the music that will come from me from here on out will probably have something to do with this, and so I'm just really happy to be doing it.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
One of those other things you're talking about is Ziltoid, the Omniscient.
Oh yeah,
I love that record.
And he's coming back too.
I was about to say that. Can you tell me more about? Is it Z squared or
Z squared? Z squared. Yeah. And it's like I guess that was the answer of that that math equation that we were talking about on that Alien record. Andrew Wiles had done this thing about. Metaphorically to me, it made a lot of sense because it kind of like connected 2 things that were previously thought not to be connected, and his answer was like Z squared. So it seemed that irony was perfect. And like with Ziltoid, obviously, a lot of people just think, well, it's a silly record about a guy who's drinking coffee and it's a puppet, and it's just stupid, right? But for me, it was like essential because what I found was like when I quit like smoking weed and drinking, I found that there was like an element of my personality that was so heavily invested in that process that I found like the Ziltoid character was almost like that projection. It was like, I'm bigger than life, you know, I'm not from this planet, you know. It's like when you start doing like things in bands and everything, you start getting that impression thrown at you. People sort of project that on you, right? So Ziltoid was a great kind of like separation for me to say, well, look, it's a puppet, right? Like he's being controlled by whatever, by himself, by coffee, whatever, right? And so at the end of that record, obviously it ends in the way it does, and the guy kind of has that realization that it was an illusion. But essentially what has happened since that time is Ziltoid, you know, started drinking tea and kind of got like, you know, relegated to a different dimension, right? And so he's definitely angry, but you know, I'm kind of going to war with him for this next record, and it's going to be very interesting. But we're doing a concert, the whole Ziltoid record in Finland this summer, right? Like with like the puppets and like, you know, so you know, it's like Ziltoid's just like a project that I'm really excited about, because really it's like you got an alien, right, that doesn't exist. There's nowhere you can't go, right? It's all about math and science and, you know, fart jokes, right?